चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मायां ददाति स्वापदान्तिकम्। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचारं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनकारणं धर्मानन्दं माधवम्। Okay, so we'll resume our discussion from 4.7 and verse 30. So these are essentially the verses of the prayers by the various participants in the assembly of, who were in the assembly of Daksha Prajapati when he was doing the yajna. And now they had reassembled again by the mercy of Lord Shiva, and they were performing the yajna again. And Lord Vishnu personally comes to accept the oblations, and one by one, different personalities will offer prayers. So previously we had seen prayers by Daksha, we had seen prayers by Lord Shiva, and then we had also seen how Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Prabhupada also in some of his purports, he reveals also some kind of an implicit criticism of others in the prayers. Essentially, these are prayers that are reflecting Mishra Bhakti. So, in a way, the prayers are glorifying Shuddha Bhakti. So they're criticizing the Mishra part of Bhakti, whether it is Karma Mishra Bhakti or Jnana Mishra Bhakti or Yoga Mishra Bhakti. So essentially, it's a glorification of Bhakti. Okay, so we'll resume with 4.7.30. Vigurvacha Yanmaya Yaghanyapa Ratatma Bodha Brahmadayastano Vritas Tamasi Swapantha Natam Shitam Tava Vedantya Aduna Pitatvam Soyam Prasidatu Bhavan Pranatma Bandhu. Sri Bhrigu said, "My dear Lord, all living entities, beginning from the highest, namely Lord Brahma, down to the ordinary ant, are under the influence of the insurmountable spell of illusory energy, and thus they are ignorant of their constitutional position. Everyone believes in the concept of the body, and all are thus submerged in the darkness of illusion. They are actually unable to understand how you live in every living entity as the supersoul, nor can they understand your absolute position. But you are the eternal friend and protector of all surrendered souls. Therefore, please be kind towards us and forgive all our offenses." So, what is Lord Bhrigu praying for? So, he's saying that please forgive our behavior as even personalities as exalted as Brahma, Shiva, and he says, me, myself, are covered by ignorance. And therefore, we cannot understand the truth about you. Why? So he says, persons like us having material bodies, so yan maya gahana. So we are embodied. Ya aparthatma bodha. Our knowledge is covered with Maya. Spiritual knowledge is covered with Maya, which is insurmountable. And because of that, we are afflicted by ignorance and cannot speak the truth about you. Adunapi na tattvam. Tattvam is the truth, and adunapi cannot speak the truth about you. What is the truth? That you are the self-illuminated person. You are pranatma bandhu, which means you're the friend of everyone, including those who are fallen. So he says, Soyam prashidatu bhavan. He says, kindly forgive us. So the prayer is essentially an acknowledgement of anyone who is embodied to be in a position of incomplete understanding of the Lord. And Bhrigu gives the reason, because our intelligence is covered by mind. So the implied criticism over here is that he's saying that even now, Brahma and even Shiva, they may say that they know you, but that is their ignorance. So the ignorance is applied a little differently to show that those who say, people like Brahma and Shiva, who are claiming that they know about you, they actually don't. That is the fact that they're saying I know about you, that is a sign of their ignorance. So essentially what Bhrigu Muni is praying is that regardless, please be kind to them. Whether the people out of ignorance are unable to understand you, or whether the people out of ignorance are claiming that they understand you, either way, he says, please be kind to them. Then he says, I'm also an offender. Right? So he's saying that I'm also in that category. And then Vishwan Chakravarti says that Bhrigu is concluding with this thought that you're actually not a friend of people like Brahma or Shiva or me, but you're actually a friend of those who have nothing but sincerely offer respects to you. So the reason the Bhrigu is excluding himself and Brahma and Shiva is because they're very opulent. They're opulent in understanding, knowledge, birth, position. So he's saying, actually, you're not a friend of people like these. You're actually a friend of those who have nothing, but they are sincerely offering their respect to you. Akinchan Kochar. But he says, still, be kind to us and forgive our offenses. In the pastimes of Lord Nrsimhadev, we see that it's in the 7th canto, Prahlad Maharaj and the other personalities are offering praise to Lord Nrsimhadev. Then you see the difference in the mood of the prayer. That all the other personalities are praying in terms of their position. Indra is saying that this person kicked me out of my kingdom. Other devas are saying that he deprived us of our yajna, the oblations, he was taking it himself. So they were all saying that, thank you for taking care of this problem for us. They were still attached to their position. That as a demigod, I was supposed to get the oblations, but Hiranyakashipu stole. So thank you for restoring them, with the exception of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj, he speaks completely from the platform of Sarvapadi Vinirmukta. That he goes to great lengths to say that I have no qualifications, no upadhis. There is nothing that I have that qualifies me to pray to you. But he says simply that I am your surrendered soul. So same mood we see over here. We'll see that with the exception of some personalities like Lord Shiva and some other personalities, almost everybody's prayers are tinged with an understanding of their own self. Right? So Bhrigu Muni is acknowledging the fact that he thinks that he's very intelligent. But that means he thinks he's very intelligent, right? So he has the wherewithal to acknowledge his fault, but that means the fault is there. So we see in his case, he's calling it out. In other cases, it's not even called out. Now, interestingly, if you look at the prayers, then Lord Shiva's prayers, it appears that he's boasting in it, right? He's glorifying himself. That I am such a great devotee of yours. My mind is always absorbed in your lotus feet. And that's why I lose external consciousness. But actually, it is not considered to be a sign of false ego, because he's simply calling out his position, just like Lord Vishnu. He says, right? He says that I'm the cause of all causes. I am the beginning, middle, and end. That's not boasting, right? It's factual. So similarly, Lord Shiva, in the mode of simplicity, he's calling out his position. Prabhupada says in the purport that Bhrigu Muni was conscious of the scandalous behavior exhibited by each and every one of them, including Brahma and Lord Shiva, in the sacrificial ceremony of Daksha. By mentioning Brahma, the chief of all living entities within this material world, he wanted to state that everyone, including also Brahma and Lord Shiva, is under the concept of the body and under the spell of the material energy. So here we see Srila Prabhupada, he is also surfacing the implicit criticism in the verse. Okay, next verse. Brahmovacha naitat swarupam bhavato sau padartha vedagrahi purusho yavad diksha jnanasya charthasya gunasya chashrayo maya vyatikrito matastam. Lord Brahma said, my dear Lord, your personality and eternal form cannot be understood by any person who is trying to know you through the different processes of acquiring knowledge. Your position is always transcendental to the material creation, whereas the empiric attempt to understand you is material, as are its objects and instruments. So what is the prayer? The prayer is that the Swarup of Krishna is beyond empirical knowledge. So the criticism here is for people like Bhrigu who follow material, who take shelter of material senses. which includes the mind, to see the form. So, so Lord Brahma is saying that as long as one does not see, as long as one is covered with pursuit for material knowledge, they will never be able to see Krishna, because he is beyond all material senses. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti, he includes an interesting commentary on this. So he is saying that Lord Brahma is saying that to Lord Vishnu, that as long as one does not see your form, one is dependent on the presiding deities of the senses, Jnanasya and Arthasya. Arthasya means the gross sense organ and the sense objects. So when one sees the Lord directly, one is no longer under the shelter of these sense deities as well as the gross and subtle sense organs. Because at that point one has a non-material perception, because the Lord has a spiritual form. So essentially those who claim that they're seeing the Lord with the material senses are not actually seeing the Lord. So this statement is directed to Bhrigu Muni and others. Prabhupada says in the purport that the attempt of empirical philosophers to understand the absolute truth by speculation is always futile, because the process of understanding their objective and the instruments by which they try to understand the absolute truth are all material. So the problem here is that while the senses are there, one cannot, the object of the senses is not compliant. So let's assume you have an inch tape, right, which is able to measure length. And then somebody says that what is the weight of this object? So you can apply the inch tape on it and measure something. It's not going to be the weight. So material senses perceive something, but it's not congruent to the attribute of the object that needs to be perceived. Right? Just like by a ruler, you cannot measure weight. By empirical senses, material senses, you cannot see the spiritual form of Krishna. So what are the instruments that are needed to see Krishna? Srila Prabhupada explains that when they are spiritualized by devotional service, Seva Mukhe Jivadu, and by persistent service attitude, the devotees become qualified to see the Lord. So he says this is the only process. Bhakti Mam Abhijanati. That only by devotional service can one understand the transcendental form of the Lord. People relying on any other means will only be deluded and are condemned as mudas. So that's why when Krishna is personally present, he's seen by demons, he's seen by devotees. But the demons don't say Krishna, because they have, or rather the non-devotees, they don't see Krishna, because they have material senses, they're seeing a material form. And that's why they're not able to make advancements. It is only when, through the mercy of a devotee, the senses become spiritualized, then they actually see the spiritual form of Krishna. Same thing for deities also, right? Because in the temple there are deities, so many people come to take darshan of the deities. For some people it's just stone. For some people it is something for reverence. And for some people it is the personality of Godhead. The object is the same, senses is the same, the level of purification is different. Okay, moving on, verse 32. Indruvacha idam apya achut vishvabhavanam vapuranand karamanodrisham survidved shapanerudayudhe bhujadanderupannam astavi. King Indra said, "My dear Lord, your transcendental form with 8 hands and weapons, in each of them appears for the welfare of the entire universe. And it is very pleasing to the mind and the eyes. In such a form, your lordship is always prepared to punish the demons who are envious of your devotees." So Indra is saying is that, my dear Lord, by your mercy, your body makes idam, this universe, auspicious. So he says the 8-armed form for destroying the demons is seen by us, even with our material senses, only by your indescribable mercy, and gives us bliss. So thus there is no other way one can attain that kind of bliss. So this statement is directed at Brahma, who previously had said that one cannot see the form of the Lord with material senses. Indra is contradicting that and saying that yes, one can see the form of the Lord with the material senses if the mercy of the Lord is there. So Indra is saying that we are able to see your form with material senses, unlike what Brahma has said. And as a proof, he is describing. He's saying your body is endowed with 8 arms, carrying weapons to destroy the demons. And it is auspicious for the universe and gives us bliss. Now, here also we see the inherent contamination in Indra, because he is glorifying the Lord as the destroyer of demons. So Indra, as the king of the heaven, he often has to fight with demons. And sometimes the demons are more powerful than him. So then he goes and takes shelter of the Lord, and the Lord destroys it. So he's saying, so his glorification is for that you help me out when I'm in trouble. You help me maintain law and order in the universe. So thank you very much for that. That is the extent of the mercy of the Lord that he is recognizing. But at the same time, he is also saying even that form of the Lord is visible to the material senses because of the mercy of the Lord by which he makes himself available. So Indra is not fully contradicting Brahma, but he's correcting him in a way. So what he's saying, that while the form of the Lord is not visible to material senses, but nevertheless by the mercy of the Lord, it becomes visible. So Brahma made the first part of the statement. Indra is qualifying that yes, it's not visible to material senses, but by the mercy of the Lord, it is visible to material senses. Srila Prabhupada adds that this mercy manifests as the Lord performing wondrous pastimes as protection against the demons. So these pastimes, they invoke faith and allow the materially bound persons to see the spiritual form of the Lord. So Prabhupada is expanding upon what is the mercy that the Lord is bestowing. So the mercy is not that the Lord changes the vision, like he gives some adjustment and the vision is changed. But the mercy is that when he performs these pastimes of fighting with the demons, then it inspires awe, it inspires faith, it inspires attraction, and that in turn makes the person more and more spiritually inclined, which allows the person to now see the spiritual form of the Lord. Prabhupada makes another point here, saying that Indra is saying that your presence with 8 hands is as good as your presence with 4 hands. So he is implying that even though we are accustomed to see your 4-handed Vishnu form, this appearance with 8 hands is as real as the 4-armed form. So Indra is saying that the even though we are not accustomed to see you with the 8-armed form, but we accept that 8-armed form just as we accept the 4-armed form. So it's essentially an acknowledgement of the faith. Like when Krishna comes as Kurma, right? He's coming as Kurma or Vara, then the devotees still accept him as Krishna. So it's not that they consider a tortoise to be the Lord. Sometimes when West, the Britishers earlier on, or people who were condemning the Bhagavatam, they try to make fun. They say, well, in the Bhagavatam it talks about worship of tortoise and worship of boars. It's not that. It's not that the boar is worshipable. But the faith is that Krishna in any form is worshipable. And Prabhupada said that's the point Indra is making, that we don't know this 8-armed form of yours. But we have faith. So we are accepting it as non-different from your 4-armed form. Prabhupada says that Lord's uncommon features, uncommon activities, and uncommon beauty can be perceived even by an ordinary man. For example, when Lord Krishna appeared just like a 6 or 7-year-old boy in Vrindavan, his uncommon activities like lifting Vrindavan, like lifting a Govardhan, should convince even materialistic men about the position of Krishna. Of course, there are those who will deny such activities or consider them to be allegorical, and for them there is no hope. So in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, we know that he had 2 servants, and one of the servants fell victim to sense gratification, and the other fell victim to mental speculation. Right? Kala Krishna, he fell victim to sense gratification, became lusty, and Balbhadra, he fell victim to Mayavad, mental speculation. So Srila Prabhupada writes in his purport that how does a person fall victim to these things? So he says that the uncommon feature of the Lord should convince even materialistic persons who want to speculate to the limit of the material senses. The activities of the Lord are pleasing to experimental vision also, but impersonalists will not believe in his identity because they study the personality of the Lord by comparing their own personality to his. Because men in this material world cannot lift a hill, they do not believe that the Lord can lift them. They accept the statements of Srimad Bhagavatam to be allegorical, and they try to interpret them in their own way. So this is essentially because they are not hearing from an absolute source. And so they are hearing from a relative source. So what will a person who is not convinced about the absolute position of Krishna speak about Govardhan pastimes? Sometimes they will say it is allegorical, that it did not really lift a hill, but the hill represents something. And it is earth giving shelter from protection from rain. Krishna represents caring of cow. Balram represents agriculture. Together they represent rural life, etc., etc. Right? Now, yes, Krishna is a protector for cows. Lord Balram is Haladar, but that is one of their incidental opulences. Their original opulences are much different. And even if you accept it as an incidental opulences, you can still make advancement. But Srila Prabhupada says what these people do is that they compare the Lord to themselves. And they say that since I cannot do this, the Lord cannot do it. So these pastimes are either mythological or allegorical. And thus they fall victim to their own mental speculation. Okay, verse 33. Tatnya uchuhu yagyo yam tava yagyaya ke nashishto vidvasta pashupatindaya dakshakopa tamnastvam shava shanabshantamedham yagyatmanalina ruchadrisha punihi. The wives of the performers of the sacrifice said, "My dear Lord, this sacrifice was arranged under the instruction of Brahma. But unfortunately, Lord Shiva, being angry at Daksha, devastated the entire scene. And because of his anger, the animals meant for sacrifice are lying dead. Therefore, the preparations for the yajna have been lost. Now, by the glance of your lotus eyes, the sanctity of the sacrificial arena may be again invoked." So they are praying that please revive the sacrifice that has been destroyed by the anger of Lord Shiva. The criticism that they are directing to everybody is that without the presence of the Lord, nothing cannot be accomplished despite all efforts. So, so the wives of the Devas are praying for the Lord to purify the sacrificial arena with his glance. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he talks about the animals lying dead, and he makes this point again that he makes a few times earlier on, that the animals are not really killed, but they are offered in the sacrifice and they're renewed. So the women by nature being very soft-hearted, they could not tolerate to see the death of so many innocent animals. And they were praying that they quickly be renewed by the process of yajna. So in a slaughterhouse, the killing of the animal creates a demoniac environment. I was reading at one place that the people who work in slaughterhouses, they have the highest incidence of psychological troubles. They go through depression, they are unable to form relationships. There's so many other issues, and they generally, people tend to work for a short time and then they leave because the environment there is so demonic. Even for those who are not fully properly situated, Um, so, so one can understand, Srila Prabhupada makes this when one can understand that the soft-hearted wives of the Devas, they will not sit there witnessing the slaughter of animals. And the fact that they're asking the animals to be rejuvenated means that these are animals that will actually benefit by the process of yajna. Prabhupada said the wives of the priest request that the animals be brought back to life by the glance of Lord Vishnu to make a pleasing yajna. Prabhupada also indicates that instead of animals in plural, they may also be talking about one particular animal, the goat that was killed to give Daksha his head. Prabhupada says that they should not have been killed as they were by Lord Shiva to replace the head of Daksha with an animal's head. So one could consider this as criticism. There's no need to kill animals. They're saying Lord Shiva could have figured out something else to replace the head of Daksha. But unfortunately, this poor goat was killed. But now by the mercy of Lord Vishnu, it can be rejuvenated. Okay. Moving along, verse 34. Rishya uchuhu anantvitam te bhagavan vicheshitatam yadatmana charasi ayakarmanajyase vibhutaye yata upasedyorishwarim namanyate swayam anuvartatim bhavan. The sages prayed, "Dear Lord, your activities are most wonderful, and although you do everything by your different potencies, you're not attached to such activities. You're not even attached to the goddess of fortune, who is worshipped by great demigods like Brahma, who pray to achieve her mercy." So their prayers is that your activities are astounding in two ways. That just by your potency, you perform so many actions, but you're not contaminated by them. So what does it mean when somebody says that you perform these actions, but you're not contaminated by them? So it means that the person is completely detached. Right? So when a judge orders a prisoner to be executed, he's not contaminated by it because he's not attached to either killing him or protecting him. He's simply doing his duty. So similarly, the sages are praying that you perform all these activities but not contaminated by them because you're not attached to them. And secondly, they give an example in extreme that what to speak of these material activities. Lakshmi Devi represents the perfection of all material opulence. You're not even attached to her. The implied criticism here is that all the other performers of actions are attached to the results of the action. So they are saying that unlike you, who is completely detached from all activities, even personalities like Brahma. So why does Brahma worship Lakshmi Devi? For opulences. Right? So they're saying that even Brahma is attached to his activities, he's fruitive. He wants opulences, so he's praying to Lakshmi Devi. Unlike you, who is being served by Lakshmi Devi, but you have no interest in her. You do not respect her for her wealth. And you do not respect those who worship Lakshmi Devi for her wealth. Of course, those who worship Lakshmi Devi for devotion, they are dear to Lord Vishnu. And Lakshmi Devi as a devotee is extremely dear to Lord Vishnu. This is more for those who approach from a material perspective. So Prabhupada says that he sometimes acts, and this is for Lord Vishnu, and those activities are very wonderful. He's not attached to anything. Namam karmani limpanti. Although he acts very wonderfully, he is not at all attached to anything. So Bhagavad Gita 4:14. Okay. So we'll do one more verse. After that, we can stop with any more discussion. Siddha uchu ayam tvat katha mrishta piyushanadhyam manovarana kleshadavang nidagdada trishartvagadu na samsaradavam na nishkramati brahma sampannavannaha. The Siddhas prayed like an elephant that has suffered in a forest fire, but can forget all its troubles by entering a river. Our minds, O Lord, always merge in the nectarian rivers, in the nectarian river of your transcendental pastimes, and they desire never to leave such transcendental bliss, which is as good as the pleasure of merging in the absolute. So the prayer by the Siddhas is that our mind is merged in the nectarian river of your transcendental pastime. So they say, Tvat katha mrishta piyusha adya. And we desire never to leave such transcendental bliss. So they compare their attraction to the transcendental pastimes of the Lord to the attraction of an impersonalist to Brahman. So it's not that they call themselves impersonalist, but it's just like saying that just like a miser is fond of his gold, a jnani is fond of knowledge, right? So does not mean that they are on the same platform. The similarity is that of the strong attachment. So they're saying just like the impersonalist is strongly attached to Brahman, we are strongly attached to your transcendental pastimes. So the criticism here is directed to the sages who spoke in the previous verse. So in the previous verse, the sages had glorified the Lord because of his detachment from the performance of his activities. So implicit in this glorification is also an injunction that others should also become detached from the performance of activities. Right? Just like the Lord is detached, you will also be detached. The Siddhas are criticizing this, saying that there is no need to do all this. One can simply become immersed in Krishna Katha. Because being detached from material activities is the process of karma kanda. That you do sakam karma, then you start doing nishkam karma, and then you become more and more detached. And they're saying that no need to do. There's no need to do all this. Simply by becoming submerged in Krishna Katha, then everything comes by itself. Vishwanath Chakravarti, he considers them to be prema bhaktas, those who have perfected their bhakti with prema. So they are saying that that the mind submerged in the nectar of the Lord's pastime does not remember the fire of samsara. So let us submerge ourselves into the Lord's pastimes without considering what our duties is or not. Duties is or not. So basically, they are saying, let's reject all this business of karma and simply indulge in Krishna Katha. And Krishna Katha, of course, is both hearing and speaking about the pastimes of the Lord. So similarly, there is a statement by Prahlad Maharaj where he says that those who are always merged in the ocean of the nectar of describing the Lord's pastimes are forever liberated, and they have no fear of the material life. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that if the example is given of the elephant who has suffered in a forest fire and who enters into a river for relief. If the persons who are suffering in the forest fires of this material existence will only enter into the nectarian river of the description of the pastimes of the Lord, they will forget all troubles of the miserable material existence. The Siddhas do not care for fruitive activities such as performing sacrifices and achieving good results. They simply merge in the transcendental discussion of the pastimes of the Lord. Okay, so I'll pause here and see if you have any comments. Okay, if not, then we'll continue with verse 36. Yajmanyavacha Swagatam te Prasidesh Tubhyam Namaha Srinivas Shriya Kantaya Trahina Bhamthe Dishananangrir Mukha Shobhate Shirsahina Kabandho Yatha Purusha. The wife of Daksha prayed as follows: My dear Lord, it is very fortunate that you have appeared in this arena of sacrifice. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, and I request that you be pleased on this occasion. The sacrificial arena is not beautiful without you, just as a body is not beautiful without the head. So Yajman was Daksha. Yajmanya is Prashuti, the wife of Daksha. And she's addressing the Lord as Srinivas. Srinivas is where Sri lives, not the abode of Lakshmi Devi. Srinivas, she's saying that without your presence, the sacrifice is not auspicious like a headless body. The body may be strong and tall and commanding, but without a head, it's inauspicious, right? So similarly, without Lord Vishnu, all sacrifices are inauspicious. This statement is a criticism directed at the Devas and Brahma, that they are saying that without the Lord, the sacrifice is not complete. So they should not have attempted to do the sacrifice without the mercy of the Lord. So Prasuti says that to the Lord, that you have always been merciful to me. Right? So, I am the daughter of Swambhavu Manu. And you were merciful to Devahuti because you appeared as a son. And you're merciful to me because you have appeared along with Lakshmi Devi in my house. So please deliver us who have been destroyed by the offense to Lord Shiva. Without you, the sacrifice is not complete. The Prabhupada has a fairly long purport on this, and I'll quickly summarize. Well, try and quickly summarize. Prabhupada makes several very excellent points. So Prabhupada begins by saying that Lord Vishnu is Yageshwar. And he quotes 3.9, Yagyatat Karmano Nyatra, that all activities are performed for the pleasure of Lord Vishnu. And then he says that any sacrifice performed without the glorification of Krishna is useless. So in Hari Bhakti Sudodhya, this is quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhilila 1975, where it says that Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shastram Japastapa Apranasyeva Dehasya Mandanam Loka Ranjanam. That for a person devoid of devotional service, birth in a great family, knowledge of revealed scriptures, performance of austerities and penances, and chanting of Vedic mantras are like ornaments on a dead body. Such ornaments simply serve the concocted pleasure of the general populace. Mandanam Loka Ranjanam. Prabhupada says also significant in this verse is that the Lord is praised as Srinivas. So whenever the Lord is worshipped, there will be good fortune. Because Nivas means she lives there. So it's not that she has to come. She already lives with the Lord. When the Lord is there, Lakshmi Devi is automatically there. Good fortune is automatically there. Lord Vishnu is addressed as Amrit, transcendental. So the Devas, including Brahma and Lord Shiva, were all created by Lord Vishnu. So Lord Vishnu is the source of everyone. So he's addressed as Amrita. So Prasuti as the aunt of Lord Vishnu, because Lord Kapila is the son of her sister, she's asking for a favor in an affectionate mode. Aunt means like a mother. She's saying that, please, I request you that you be pleased on this occasion. So she's imploring the Lord to turn the priest into Vaishnavas instead of Karamkandis. So it's also interesting to see the greatness of Prasuti, that she's not asking anything specifically for Daksha. And her prayer is simply glorifying the Lord and implicit criticism for those who do any activities, whether it is karma or gyan, that is not centered around the Lord. Okay, verse 37. Lokapalucho Dristha kim no drigabhira sadgrahestvam प्रत्यग्द्रष्टा दृश्यते येन विश्वम् माया एषा भवदीय हि भूमान् यस्त्वं सस्तः panchabirbhasi bhute. The governors of various planets spoke as follows. So these are Lokapalas. Dear Lord, we believe only in our direct perception, and therefore we see you as a creation of the material world. But under the circumstances, we do not know whether we have actually seen you with our material senses. By our material senses, we can simply perceive the cosmic manifestation. But you are beyond the 5 elements. You are the 6th. So they're praying that we are only able to see by direct sense perception. So we are able to only see the material world that you have created. But you are beyond the 5 elements. That you are the internal seer by which the universe is seen, but you yourself cannot be seen. So the criticism here is directed towards the sages and the devas and the mental speculators, the jnanis, that those who think that the Lord has a material form cannot see the Lord. And it's not that each verse presents a unique aspect of the prayer or the unique aspects of criticism. We see a recurring theme here. The recurring theme is that the Lord is beyond material senses. The Lord is beyond mental speculation. He is only attainable by the process of devotional service. He is only attainable by the process of mercy. Right? That's the recurring theme that is basically presented in different ways, with different embellishments. That without the presence of the Lord, all activities are useless. With the presence of Lord, any activity becomes auspicious. So this theme is essentially embellished in different ways and presented. So this is very similar to the sentiments of Indra. The Lokapalas are essentially echoing that you cannot be seen by material senses. The asad grahis, asad means temporary, but pratyak drashta. Pratyak drashta means that you make yourself available, which basically is pointing to his mercy. So this also answers the question of how could personalities like Kamsa and Jarasan see Krishna. Right? So the Lokapalas say that since their senses are material, they consider your form to be material, which means that they do not realize the actual sweetness of the Lord, which means that they do not actually see the Lord, but simply they see an illusory material form of the Lord. That is why they do not make advancements. And that's that's the point made in the 3rd canto by Uddhav also, that when the vision of the soldiers in the battle of Kurukshetra was purified by the arrows of Arjun, then they could see the Lord in his form, and then they acquired mukti. So they were seeing the Lord all along. Some people had been seeing the Lord for years. People like Duryodhan, since he was a child, he was seeing Krishna. Right? Of course, Duryodhan was in a different situation. But similarly, there were other personalities. But when they got the mercy of Arjun, they were able to see the Lord's form from a spiritual perspective. And then they were able to make advancement. So simply seeing the Lord does not mean anything. Right? One has to see the Lord through the eyes of a devotee or through devotional eyes. Srila Prabhupada says that in the Brahma Samhita it is stated that only persons who have anointed their eyes with the love of Godhead can see the personality of Godhead. Right? This is Premanjana Churuti Bhakti Vilochanena. Then Prabhupada says that in the prayers of Kunti Devi 1826, it is stated that only those who are akinchana gocharam, those who are not materially puffed up, can see the personality of Godhead. Others are bewildered and cannot even think of the absolute truth. Verse 38. Yogeshvara uchu preyana te anyo styamutas dvai prabhu vishvatmanikshena prathagyaatmanaha athapi bhaktesha tayopadhavatam ananya vritya anugrana vatsala. The great mystic said, Dear Lord, persons who see you as non-different from themselves, knowing that you are the super soul of all living entities, are certainly very, very dear to you. You are very favorable towards those who engage in devotional service, accepting you as a Lord and themselves as the servants. By your mercy, you are always inclined in their favor. So, next two verses are praise offered by the Yogeshwaras. Yogeshwaras are the masters of yoga. So, they're saying that persons who see the Lord as one with the other jivas are very dear to the Lord, even more than those who see themselves as one with the Lord. Right? So what is the difference between the two? Persons who see the other jivas as one with the Lord have the Paramatma vision. Right? They see the Lord as Paramatma and see the Paramatma in everybody's, accompanying everyone jiva. And the persons who see themselves as non-different, these are the Brahmavadis. And they say that I'm spirit, the Lord is spirit, so we are non-different. So the impersonalists see the jivas as non-different from the Lord. So they are being condemned here, apparently being praised, but actually condemned. So, so there is this nyaya which is called nahi ninda nyaya. So nahi ninda nyaya, as per this nyaya, is that one's praise for something should not be construed as criticism for another thing. So in the Tarka Shastra, it is said that nahi ninda nyaya is when one will glorify one particular perspective, but that does not mean that the other perspective is flawed. Right? So, for example, the purpose of glorifying a particular deity does not mean that you're criticizing the other deities. Like somebody says that Lord Jagannath is so beautiful. When I see Lord Jagannath, tears flow from my eyes. I cannot take my eyes off Jagannath. That does not mean that he's criticizing Madan Mohan or he's criticizing Shyam Sundar, right? So that is nahi nindanya. That he is not, his glorification of one does not imply criticism of another. So the Yogeshwars are actually doing the opposite of it. So what they are saying is that a person who uh, that the vision of the Gyanis as seeing a non-different from the form of the Lord is actually a criticism for them. So in the first two lines, what they are saying is that the vision of the Gyanis is non-different from the Lord and it is praiseworthy, right? So this is what they are saying in the first two verses. But then in the third and the fourth line of the verse, they're saying that please make us your devotees. So by praising the process of bhakti, they're condemning impersonal realization, which is why then they say that you are very favorable towards those who engage in devotional service, right? So the praise over here is actually criticism. So when they praise bhakti, they are criticizing impersonalism, right? So although the Gyanis are very dear to you, but you are Bhaktavatsal, so you make us devotees of you. In a way, there is some glorification of Gyanis, that they are dear to you, but at the end of the day, it's criticism that even though Gyanis are dear to you, we don't want to become Gyanis, right? So there's criticism there. Why? Because even though Gyanis are dear to you, the Bhaktavatsals, the Bhaktas are even more dear to you because you're Bhaktavatsal. So we don't want Gyan, we want your Bhakti. Srila Prabhupada says that persons who are in full knowledge, analyzing his different energies and knowing their own constitutional position are certainly very, very dear to the Lord, right? So this Prabhupada is speaking about the Gyanis, the first two lines of the verse. Then he says, persons, however, who may not even be conversant with the knowledge of the Supreme Personality, but always think of the Lord with love and faith. Now here is now talking about the Bhaktas, the last two lines. Feeling that he is great and that they are his parts and parcels, ever his servitors, are even more favored by him. The particular significance of the verse is that the Lord is addressed as Vatsal. Vatsal means always favorably disposed. The Lord's name is Bhaktavatsal. He is famous as Bhaktavatsal, which means that he is favorably inclined to his devotees. Then Prabhupada says that you will never see the Lord addressed as Jnani Vatsal. He is only addressed as Bhaktavatsal. So while he might appreciate the Jnanis, but he is very favorably inclined towards the devotees. In some references for this, in 11th canto, Krishna says to Uddhav that, my dear Uddhav, neither Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Sankarshan, the goddess of fortune, nor indeed my own self are as dear to me as you are. Right? So this is glorifying the position of a devotee. And then in the 9th canto, it said that, O best of the Brahmins, without saintly persons for whom I am the only destination, I do not desire to enjoy my transcendental bliss and my supreme opulences. And Prabhupada explains this verse saying that a person may be very rich, but unless he has friends and family to enjoy his opulences, those riches will not really make the person happy. So Prabhupada said this is the science of transcendental bliss that is known to pure devotees. That once you become Krishna's friends and family, then Krishna is eager to share his opulences. Prabhupada also clarifies that these jnanis who do get some favor of the Lord. So Prabhupada, in the first two lines, it is said that the Lord is favorable to the jnanis. Prabhupada says these are not Mayavadis. These are impersonalists. They are Brahmavadis. So in the purport, Prabhupada says the oneness is not the misunderstanding that a living entity is equal in every respect to the personality of Godhead. This monism is based on pure knowledge as described in Bhagavad Gita 7:17. Pyo hi jnanino tirthamaham sacha mama priya. The Lord says that those who are advanced in transcendental knowledge and know the science of Krishna consciousness are very dear to him, and he is very dear to them. Okay, carrying on. Second verse by the Yogeshwaras. Jagat bhavo sthiti layesho devato baho vidyamano gunayatma mayaya rachittatma bheda matyasve samsthaya vinivartita brahma gunatmane namaha. We offer a respectful obeisances unto the Supreme, who has created varieties of manifestations and put them under the spell of the three qualities of material world in order to create, maintain, and annihilate them. He himself is not under the control of the external energy. In his personal feature, he is completely devoid of the variegated manifestation of material qualities, and is under no illusion of false identifications. So they're saying Namaha Rachitatma Bhedamatya. So Rachitatma, one who creates Bhedamatya, different mentalities in different people. Gunatma Mayaya. How does he do that? By the gunas that are created by his Maya. And Bahu Vidyama. And because of that, things are divided into various ways. By whom? Devato. Devato here refers to the activities of the jivas. And what are the category? Jagat Udbhava Sthiti Layeshu. For the creation, maintenance, and the destruction of the universe, Vinivartita Brahma Gunatmane, and whose intelligence is not deluded by the gunas, so samstaya, because of being situated in his own swarup. So this is the description of the Lord as opposed to those who are conditioned by him. So those who are conditioned by him, by the influence of the modes of material nature, they develop different mentalities. But not the Lord. He is not deluded by the gunas. He is always situated in the swarup. And why does the Lord do this? Jagat Udbhava Sthiti Layeshu, for the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the universe. So essentially the prayer is that, my Lord, you have created the manifestations under the various modes, though you are transcendental. So this verse is a continued criticism of the jnanis by the yogis. So what they are saying is that the jnanis say that the Parabrahman only takes on a form when mixed with Maya. Only in this state there is duality between the jiva and the Lord, and consequently the relationship of affection between the Lord and his devotees. So essentially what they're saying, that the duality is the result of illusion. And because affection and relationship can only come when there is two, They say even that is a result of illusion. So this is what the yogis are criticizing the Gyanis for saying. And they are saying that such a person is mistaken. That yes, the Lord creates different mentalities between people, but it is the jivas who choose to act upon it, not the Lord. So the divisiveness is coming from the jiva, not the Lord. So it is not the Lord's energy that is creating divisiveness. It is not Maya that is creating the concept of many. The concept of many is always there. And the divisiveness is coming because of the conditioned nature of the jiva. The Lord's intelligence, however, is never deluded. Right? So the Gyanis say that even the Lord gets deluded. And that's why he enters into relationship. So they're saying that he's always situated in his own swarup. Whether he's in the material world or the spiritual world, he's always situated in his swarup. So the spiritual world is eternal, right? There is no creation, maintenance, or destruction. The material world is a manifestation of the external energy of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport clarifies that one may think that why is the Lord acting differently towards different jivas, right? And Prabhupada says that two situations are described in this verse. One is of creation, maintenance, and annihilation of the material world, and the other is the Lord's own establishment. There is also quality in the Lord's own establishment, the kingdom of God. Later on he says, on account of the variegatedness of the external potency, there are manifestations of many qualitative demigods beginning with Brahma and Shiva, and people who are attracted to these demigods according to their own material quality. And so this is the point that Prabhupada is making again, that the Lord does not make any distinction. The people according to their own swabhav make this distinction. And thus, some of them worship the devas, some of them worship other humans, some of them worship nobody, some of them worship themselves, and some worship the Lord. Okay, I'll do one more verse, and then we can pause for any discussion. Brahma Vacha Namaste Shatastavya Dharmadinam Cha Sutyaye Nirgunaya Chayat Kastham Naham Ved Pare Picha. The personified Vedas said, we offer a respectful obeisances unto you, the Lord, the shelter of the quality of goodness, and therefore the source of all religion, austerity, and penances. For you are transcendental to all material qualities, and no one knows you or your actual possession. So it says Brahma Vacha. So Brahma here refers to Karam Kanda Vedas, or rather the personification of the Karam Kanda Vedas. So the praise is that though you are the shelter of the mode of goodness, you are nirguna and cannot be known even by the Vedas. Right? Karam Kanda Vedas essentially are activities in the mode of goodness. The criticism here is directed to the followers of karma and jnana. So they're saying the Vedas do not know you, what to speak of others. So the Lord is both the source and the shelter of dharma, jnana, Vairagya, Aishwarya, everything that is offered in the Vedas. But in his original position, he is Nirguna, which means he has nothing to do with Dharma, Gyan, Vairagya or Aishwarya from the material perspective. So the positive transcendental qualitative manifestations is unknown to the students of the Vedas. Right? The fact that even though the Lord presents himself as Dharma Gyan or Vairagya Aishwarya in the Vedas, the Lord has nothing to do with it. So one may ask that if these qualities of the Lord are unknown, then how are the personified Vedas speaking about them? Right? Because at one point they're saying that even the Vedas don't know your transcendental qualities. And these are the Vedas themselves, so how are they speaking about it? So Prabhupada explains that these qualities are manifested to the devotees. And those who are in the mode of goodness can partially enter into the transcendental understanding. So they get a glimpse of it. Or by the mercy of the devotees, they get an understanding of it. So Prabhupada says that yes, the Vedas are right, that these qualities are beyond the understanding of the Vedas, but not beyond the understanding of the devotees. And when those in the mode of goodness take shelter of the devotees, then these qualities are revealed. So even the author of the Vedanta Sutra was not satisfied after writing it. Right? So what to speak of the readers of the sutras? So it goes to prove the point that the Vedas are personified Vedas are making over here. Okay, so so I'll pause over here. See if you have any comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please have humble obeisances of Lord Srila Prabhupada. Can you hear me, Prabhu, very well?
Yes, I can hear you.
Prabhu, I don't know whether it is directly related to the topic, but somewhat related to, regarding perception of God. In our devotee circle, I quite often hear that when it comes to, we are right now going through the Damodar Leela in the 10th canto in our Bhagavatam class in the mornings. And, when they explain it as a Lord is playing, play acting or a drama. That emphasis is given as if one person was asking question. The Lord stole, Krishna stole the butter. If everything belongs to Krishna, why there is a statement he stole the butter? And so the explanation given or answer given was he's playing his role to enhance the affection of the devotees. So when I hear this, I feel very uncomfortable, especially when the Bhagavatam class is being attended by many different grades of people, who some of them are very new and some of them some impersonal conception and things like that. So it makes me a little uncomfortable when the emphasis is given on play acting and so can you please comment on that? Is the right way of explaining, or is there any just wanted to get your feedback on that, if it is appropriate to speak in this class.
I've myself heard of it several times, because Leela gets translated, all this is Leela. Leela gets translated variously. That Krishna is performing Leela, which means that he's doing it for the pleasure of his devotees, or he's play acting, different connotations of it. They're all part of the truth. Yes, Krishna is doing it for the pleasure of the devotees. Yes, it is Krishna's Leela, but it does not take away the essential tattva that that is what Krishna is doing in the spiritual world. So it's not that he gets up in the morning and he says, what should I pretend to do today to satisfy my devotees, right? That's what he does. Like in a house, when a young mother gets up, she does not think that, how do I pretend to love my child? Right? Now, as part of, and as an expression of that love, she might do so many things, right? She might feed the child, she might play with the child, she might play act with the child. So she might do so many things that are there for enhancing the happiness of the child and her own happiness and enjoying the rasa of the relationship. But it does not take away the love of the mother for the child, right? So Krishna's the essential root is that this is what Krishna does in the spiritual world. And this is what he does. He gets up in the morning and he interacts with his family, he jokes with his friends, he gets chastised by his mother, he teases the gopis there. And as a consequence of that, there is indescribable pleasure, right? So just because there is pleasure, it does not make that act fake or does not make that act put on. In fact, it basically bears testimony to the what's the word I'm looking for? To the genuineness of the act, right? Like, because a mother does not have to pretend to play with the child. Right? When she plays, she feels genuine happiness out of that. There is no artificiality. Even though the mother might be saying that, okay, I'm blind now, I have this thing on my eye, I cannot see, so I'm pretending that I cannot see and I'll try and catch you, right? So it's all make believe. But does it make the relationship make believe? No, it's actually a testimony to the strength of the relationship. At least that's my take on this, because
in case of Krishna, bro, Krishna is, for example, he covers himself with the Yoga Maya, and he's scared of Mother Yashoda when she brings the stick. And is that scared is fake or is it real? And when someone says it's a play acting, then it implies that it is not 100% real. At the same time, the speaker also says Krishna is never covered by Maya because he's always aware of every soul. He's a super soul and he's aware of everybody, and Maya is under his control. So at no point in time he is not aware of his position. While is therefore it's not appropriate to say Krishna is fully covered by Yoga Maya and therefore he is fully scared of Mother Yashoda. That was the discussion which went on. I felt really not very comfortable hearing that, and I don't know how you would take it. In case of mother that you are pointing out, yes, but in Krishna's case, while he is covering himself, at the same time he's also aware of who he is and who everybody else is. So there is two different aspects of Krishna is reconciled in one place. So that is inconceivable. Actually, that's what my take is. So what is there any better way to explain that?
The point you're making is that so yes, I think the statement is accurate that Krishna gets covered by Yoga Maya. That's an accurate statement. It's it's the difference between Mahamaya and Yoga Maya is that Krishna voluntarily takes shelter of Yoga Maya. Yoga Maya is Krishna's own energy, And the purpose of Yogmaya is to facilitate the enjoyment of Krishna. Does not in any way diminish his position or progress, right? Prabhupada gives the example that the judge of a court may go in and, play with the grandchild, become a horse for the grandchild. Still remains a judge, right? Still remains a judge, but he's playing. He's enjoying. So Krishna's position doesn't change, but yes, Krishna does all this. He facilitates the enjoyment by taking on different positions there. Again, does not mean that they are fake. Like, when the judge is playing with its grandchild, there's nothing fake about it. That's just another way that he is enjoying with the child. His awareness is never covered.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. I'm sorry that I digressed from your topic today.
No worries, Prabhu. Yeah. Okay. So if there are no more questions or comments, we'll stop here. Vanchakalpatarubhayaschet kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakori Vaishnavinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thai Gaur Premanand. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.